Okay, so hello everybody. This is me, Francisco, here for Sports Goofs number 194, joined by Charles here, and I don't have anything planned. That's where we're at here, huh, Charles?
You're basically a 17-year-old parent.
Yeah. I honestly, I mean, there's hockey stuff. I mean, the Panthers are a wagon at this point.
Well, remember how I told you there's some stuff I want to contribute to the hockey?
Okay, give me your hockey topics then, because I can maybe answer. So you're playing NHL 24 right now.
Yeah. So. Do you want to do your overall rundown and then lead into it?
I mean, do you want me to go over what's going on with the league? Because if you got some questions, I might have some answers. So.
Well, it's a little bit, but I'm gonna segue. I'll conjoin it, and then you'll take the dance. So I'm a hockey fan now, guys. Like I've gone to games like 3 years or 2 years, 3 out of 5, right? I'm a dynasty according to my combo with Andrew many years ago. I have NHL 24, which I enjoy thoroughly. It's actually the most gaming I've played in the last 3 weeks because I haven't, Helldivers is occupied. We'll talk about that in a second of what compelled me to go buy that. Right now I'm playing as the Jets versus the Kings, so I'm learning players, and I'm just like doing variety, not just 1v1s. It really is the perfect show game. I'm not going to lie, or a game for the show as we do it. Very satisfied that I finally bought it. And I get some insight on the Twitter. Follow us on the Twitter, Charles the True, Dan Frijoles, at JoJR, Sports_Goofs. Panthers historian, big great account. I wonder who runs that. Yeah. Marlins historian, about to pop up in about 3 months, guys. Really, follow that account. We'll call it 2 months because April means nothing in baseball world, but for that account, go from there. Also, give some shout outs to my wrestling people, Humble Public Enemy Podcast. People, it's good. They're always good. And then the wrestlers. But Ethan Budowski, I think that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
5 Reasons Sports, whatever, had brought up something last night that you sent.
Okay.
And that you retweeted and you answered to about the Panthers being a hated team now in South Florida. And
outside of South Florida, let's just say that.
Outside of South Florida.
The rest of the NHL fan bases.
And it's good for business because I don't have a set team. We run a joke that I follow the Bruins because my brother-in-law got me a Boston Bruins hat on the belief that he heard me say, hey, I like Boston because I went to Boston, which isn't wrong. I thought Boston was a great city. Better than the Celtics hat because, remember last year I chastised my nephew on my mom's birthday for dare being my present of wearing a Celtics Jason Tatum shirt. Overrated. He's okay. Jaylen Brown's overrated. But I've gone to only their games. I have, played them in times in the NHL. I've watched their Stanley Cup finals competition. I watched them through the playoffs. And I think it's good for business when you have a team build consistency and they have an identity that can bring in casual viewers to be like, well, they went to the Stanley Cup finals last year. The year prior to that, they were doing good. Right now, they're second best in the league. Last time I checked on the East.
There's a few things that have happened.
That's fine.
Yeah, but keep going.
It's really good for business because I gotta tell you, man, I'm not gonna claim allegiance to him because I remember when they were the Ali Jokinen days, and that's how far back I go. They've always been in my hemisphere, but I'm gonna tell you now, and he's not on the show today, and I'm not trying to crap on him. The Tampa Bay Lightning going 3 in a row could not make me watch hockey. They're too far out. They're not within my vicinity. Andrew, for what it's worth, never really spoke with passion the way you did speaking about the Panthers. I also lived in Miami for 3.5 years. So when Dan Levitard followed him on the Twitter and Mike Ryan and Dan Stugotz and all that stuff, Jeremy Taché, and whatever affiliates they have, could get me into it when they had people on there back when the Panthers were really bad a couple of years ago, if you remember. And it is just working well. Where it's like, I'm just gonna run home. I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon with it. I'll be the first person to admit that if I have to have a designated team to watch because I'll watch all of hockey. I've expanded. I've gone to sleep kind of watching some of the Western Conference games. I had to watch a Minnesota Wild game the other day. It's great, but like I'm seeing Budowski talking about, how they're being hated. It's great, but what do I live for, bud? I live for the hate. I live for the petty. Part of it is because I have personal knowledge of this team start to finish. Part of it because I was so blown away by the game I saw, 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago when they played Colorado.
Yep,
and I saw Bobrovsky just, pull out that shutout where I saw a team that was said to be the second best team in the Western Conference at that time look deflated and burnt out and not physical at all. And I don't kill Makar. I got into that stuff, building into it. And I'm just seeing Reinhart, Verhey, your boy Kachuk, really bringing that heat. And, my input into is like, this is good for business where I'm actively seeking it. I'm more interested in hockey than I was this year's football. Not Super Bowl, which was a good Super Bowl. Just the overall season. And the season ain't over.
No, it's not.
Like, I'm diving deep in that ish. I just have to understand the conferences, and for the life of me, my brain won't conceptualize it because I think I treat the same way how I treat the NBA conferences where divisions don't matter, and that's not a good thing when it comes to hockey because I understand how it plays in importance.
Yeah, hockey's restructured their standings about, let's say, a decade ago now, essentially.
And then we got flipped up with the COVID year because then they rechanged it.
True. That was, they had the bubble, and then they had the season following that was completely different divisions aligned, and yeah.
So like, and me, I don't care about the history of teams because I didn't live in that era. So what the hell does it matter? If I didn't watch that, if I didn't live in that era and I didn't watch in that era, what am I to talk about it? You understand? Like, Mickey Mantle, one of the best players ever. I can't claim ownership to that as a Yankee, right? Just in theory. So I'm not going to go about talking about 96 and 97. I don't know if you got me on the bandwagon. I don't think you're ever going to get me on the Panthers merch, even though I do love, I love the Los Gatos or Vamos Gatos spread that you sent me. And I do like the little tropical,
the stick and tree.
The palm tree. The palm tree, the stick. I thought that was great design. But I can go on that hate because why? Who am I? I'm a Yankee fan. And we talked about it. We talked about it. And how you said, well, they weren't like villains in 2003. I'm like, but they impacted America's team in that sense because it was America's team. It's not right now. It's the Dodgers and the Red Sox. I'll never understand it. Houston wishes it had that clout, and they fucking don't won. But the Panthers can get me as America's team because it's all the right credentials. In a state where we never see snow, right, or at least in that South Bend, where you have lifelong guys that go around. There were so many guys that were lifelongers. Ekblad was a lifelonger. Duclair was before they traded him. Your homeboy that you sent out before you got Kachuk. Huberdeau, Jonathan Huberdeau. Luongo came and went, but he was everywhere kind of gig. But, all these names that kind of came in, but you're setting up the praises to go against the whole, like, great establishment of what it meant to be a hockey organization and team. And I was, like, looking into it because what I do for research is not necessarily the passive teams. I look at who the star players are going to be. Mind you, if you play NHL 24, at least tell you what X Factor players are. And I understand it's fictional to a degree, but at least gives you a concept of whatever it is. But I will speak this about your Panthers, and this is me just giving the rub and tug and let them know that I'll play with the base as well. I'm invested in the season. I think I want them to win it all. Having them been there a couple times, they're building up stuff that I like, especially since they had to deal with Quenneville's nonsense when he had to step down.
Yeah.
And but that's me remembering stuff. And then I hear Andrew be like, "Oh, but John Cooper." I'm like, I don't care. And that's the thing. If Tampa,
he was a lawyer and all that stuff. Yeah, we know lawyers. Yeah. Lawyers don't impress us.
and Tampa couldn't get me that invested. And mind you, Amelia Arena, are they Amelia Arena? I never remember. Isn't the worst, but you couldn't sell me. I purposely avoid Tropicana Field so I can go see the Yankees play the Marlins. You know what I mean?
I mean,
like that's me.
Tampa's kind of boring. You know,
it is boring.
Like that.
It is boring.
They were kind of a boring team as well overall. Yeah, Vasilevsky was good. Kucherov's good. Stamkos is good, but I mean that doesn't really incite anything in anybody.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like these guys know. And the one thing I would tell anybody who's a viewership, how I am with my fandoms is I know my teams I like. I know the teams in that division. So I know the Eastern Conference NBA. I know the AFC South. You know damn well I know about the LA East, especially since I got Andrew, who is a Rays fan. One of my coworkers, Nick, hi Nick, is a Blue Jays fan. So he's so smart with it, man, that he makes me want to know more about baseball. No screwing around. I love that when it comes to people I know, friends, coworkers. You guys maybe do that with hockey, how it kind of picked up. I feel like you and I are the ones who know football a little bit better than Andrew, and then basketball, like, I've been in more than you have lately, kind of gig. So
yeah, NBA hasn't really enticed me. The All-Star game happened, and everybody was completely people were just like upset by how much of a waste of time it was.
Oh, don't worry, I have words for that.
Yeah, so we're not there yet, but we'll talk about it.
But with the NHL now, I'm like, all right, I know it's the Eastern Conference. I'm gonna look into the Eastern Conference.
NHL's hot. I mean, you're looking at they're starting to show guys that are like they just had the Stadium Series out in MetLife Stadium recently. So the Flyers, the Devils, the Rangers, and the Islanders went to play outdoors, where the Giants and the Jets play. And they had Saquon Barkley and Tommy Vercetti. What the hell? DeVito. There we go, right? Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, I said Vercetti. That's the guy from Grand Theft Auto.
But yeah, you just want to shoot bad guys. I got you.
A typical Italian-American mobster. So, anyways.
I feel like I got to talk about that game later. Jesus.
Anyways, they had those guys watching the game. They're like, oh, hockey's actually pretty dope. Yeah, the people are starting to realize that. Lil Jon is a massive hockey fan as well. He's a hockey fan since he was with the Thrashers.
I know, and I remember. Yeah, you just can't win if you're over there.
So
hockey,
and then he moved to Vegas, and he's a huge Vegas Golden Knights fan. So, he's an OG that he didn't jump on the Knights bandwagon. So
hockey is fun. The problem was, I talked to you about this when we started this sumbitch too 5 years ago. Is the licensing of it to DirecTV, and I didn't have satellite, and I was streaming before streaming was even popular because we were broke and Comcast was super expensive as a monopoly for cable, so it was hard to see those games except when it was like the playoffs. But sometimes you don't want to see the playoffs if you have nothing to build you up into it. You know what I mean? Because you mentioned how ESPN and we'll just call it Disney itself has built a better way of coming into it. That comes into giving you backstory about players and coaches and teams. And I just do not remember those playoffs, when they were building onto DirecTV or whatever, the satellite dish or whatever, gave you good insight once they got to main public broadcast. And then something would be on USA or CNBC or something like that.
Yeah, it was NBC that owned the rights at that time. So it was, they had some weird stuff. NBC Sports Network, which died. All that stuff. So. And
you'll never hear me compliment the mouse. You guys know I think Disney's a monopoly that needs to be broken in every way, shape, or form just so people can actually get fair wage and pay. But hypocrisy is beautiful. When it comes to hockey, at least they've done stuff where it's on TNT and ESPN. And right now, when it's a dead season for this show, which is one of my most favorite things, is when we're kind of in a dead moment, so we can get weird. But as a viewership, when my brain's too tired from having to be an attorney or being a son and everything else in between, and I can just put on something and I'm in a rush, they've done a better way of broadcasting, whether it be through Hulu, right? Because that's how I watch it through my combo.
To Maxes now too.
Yeah. So the whole point of it is that it's me kind of being like, look, if I'm going to die on a hill, I'm dying on Panthers. Vamos Gatos, right? Even though my belief is shouldn't say Vamos Gatos, you're gonna laugh, and this is a theory I didn't pray with you last week because it's based in South Florida. It said Vamos Gatos. Shouldn't it be Dale Gatos? I'm just saying. And
maybe they have a trademark for that. I'm not sure. Or maybe
Dale Heat.
Pitbull might have a trademark for that. I'm not sure.
So for those who are like, what the hell? What are the guys talking about, Dale? Dale is something that I never said Dale in my lifespan. It was Vamonos, right? But it's from Argentina, Colombia, and New York, come to Polk County where I barely spoke Spanish, and then moved to West Palm, Morton County. And then when I moved to Miami, and FIU, which is biggest congregation ethnicity, for anybody who's Latin speaking or Spanish speaking, was Cuban, right? I heard Dale so much, and my dumbass 3 had to be like, what the hell is Dale? Like, what's that? So, DAL with the E and yeah, or whatever the little symbol is. And then it's essentially their slang for let's go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the running joke that I had was like, it should be Vamonos. Where do you go? Like, because grandma to me was always Vamonos, like, let's get the fuck out of here. 4. Because that was the energy. It wasn't like a life. It's not like, what's the joke I always run with you when a good thing happens? I'm like, Alexa, play Pepas, because Pepas is the vibe, the energy. That to me was never Vamos, right? Now that I lived in Miami for some time, I have good deep points in there. To me, it's like Dale. And I feel like it should be Dale Gatos. And I swear, man, I'm going to find a way for them to break that trademark, or Pitbull, who thinks he's Mr. Worldwide. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to get Dale Cats or something like that. I promise you. I promise you. You know that meme on Twitter? I'm going to get you out of here when he's talking to the dog. I'm going to get you Dale. Don't worry. I'm going to get you Dale. Some way, shape, or form. That will be my contribution. But this is good, though, because I am, by pure definition, like a semi-casual viewer who had to use video games to learn the names of people who were obscure to me. And I think Panthers are doing right. I get the lineups. I know the players. I get the wings. I get the centers. I get the concept of the coaching. I understand what they go on defensiveness. I'm listening. I'm tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that kind of what you want when you're a sport that is getting, I would say, a second chance?
It is.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, the growth in viewership is happening. I think
there's Andrew's probably listening, just like, damn it, my Lightning won 2 in a row and then got to a third. Sorry, bud.
Well, yeah. People, it'll always have the asterisk amongst the greater NHL fan base. I think people, it just didn't really captivate people as well as it did. And maybe if the years had been normal, right? If they had a normal finish to a season in 2020 or a normal finish or long season in 2021, it could have been different. But regardless, the point is with the NHL,
they felt like a Spurs dynasty.
I mean, for me, remember, I'm coming from not just a fan perspective, but from a media objective perspective as well. Yeah. Seeing the growth of the team, because I started covering the team essentially a year before the current ownership took over.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that they were doing strides to try and connect with the fan base, connect with the, at the time, the blogs and people that were diehards that were covering the team, and eventually that got onto us. We could get media passes and part of SB Nation, that type of stuff. So I was able to go cover games, and just seeing, for me, I was some frustration from sense like, man, this team is they're trying to do better, but there's no traction here in South Florida, and it just takes some actual commitment to winning and spending that put the team or push the team forward. So that starts from the ownership, who actually have the money to do so, and signing the players and locking them down. You see, you draft Huberdeau, you draft Barkov, you draft Ekblad, you then see that, oh, these guys actually are good, and we got something here. Let's sign them to the long-term contract, right? All right, we're keeping them like 8-9 seasons. There we go. We're gonna buy out their entry-level years and in their free agent years already. Boom, let's do it now. Let's surround them with some guys. Let's trade for Jaromir Jagr. Mm-hmm. Let's get Roberto Luongo back. Let's do all of those things to kind of create some buzz. 2016 season happens. That team was buzzing back. The Rats are back, and they're making connection with the team. Then they went too fully into the analytics stuff from the wrong perspective. Then the team just wasn't gelling. They had a pretty good season where they probably would have made the playoffs at any other season, but unfortunately everybody else had 97 plus points that one year in 2018, I think. And then down years, the bubble season was weird as well. And then finally, the last few seasons here with the rivalry with Tampa, losing a round to them. The President's Trophy year, they won all those games and then lost in the second round. And then last season, you trade for Matthew Tkachuk, and you immediately sign him to an 8-year contract. And the perception of the team is different now. Players want to be here. They just built a brand new practice facility out in Fort Lauderdale by renovating an old building, an old memorial auditorium. And they've doubled down on being Broward's team because they essentially are. And that's helped them out, but it's also trickled into Palm Beach County and Miami-Dade County because people are starting to notice all over the place. I'm seeing Panther stuff. You're seeing all those L car washes, and they have a Panther and a Heat logo next to them now. Part of the Champions Club. That's what they call it. You don't see the Miami Dolphins there. And I always have... Petty doesn't take an off season, Charles.
Hey, man, we have a segment called Petty Train that always is chewing through all major
exactly. I gotta, we gotta take it out for some maintenance every once in a while and just have a little test run before we send it out there for next fall. But the team's perception throughout here, I guess it's a Panther segment, but I can talk about it now because me and Andrew had some trash talking over Saturday when the Panthers were absolutely trouncing the Lightning.
I was eating that popcorn. I was like, all right, and you know me, because we got the receipts. Because the running joke that we always have about Andrew is the bandwagoning, and he's not. Like football he is. All the other sports I'm calling on football. I don't care. But when I read that message, like I would sacrifice the Rays, I was like about to throw my phone and everything.
Yeah.
Go ahead, San Francisco.
And it's funny that Ethan posted that, and that and I saw another post where somebody like a Boston Bruins fan of all people was like, Panthers fans are probably like the biggest trolls on NHL Twitter or whatever. I'm like, Boston? But that's the teapot calling the kettle black type of thing. And it was actually really fun to do that because I posted a post on Saturday whilst the Panthers are trouncing the Lightning. It was like 4 or 5-1 at that point.
Oh, yeah. Everybody. Francisco's very famous, by the way. Follow him on everything.
Yeah, you've already done the plug, but
you're also doing like other people's shit too.
Yeah. I'm on podcasts and stuff like that now, and I'm trying to get back into the circles that I was in beforehand, but I still am. I'm just doing it on my own now, to be honest, doing my own thing. But regardless,
you're Beyonceing this bitch right here.
Probably, I've done kind of my own thing now, right? So, anyways, making a joke about not really the Lightning. It wasn't aimed at the Lightning. Because I'm a lawyer, I know how to word my shit correctly. It was about the Rays because if I could trash on I've been pretty good with not trashing the Rays, but when they did not show up for their playoff game, when the people did not show up, that was it. I stopped defending them now. Send them to Nashville, send them to Montreal, send them to Utah. I don't care because that place
Salt
is not
Lake City Rays has kind of like a vibe to it.
Yeah, kind of like the Utah Jazz, where it's just like it doesn't make sense, but it kind of makes sense, Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So
and you can make the whole thing as like that's our mascot, Salty.
Yeah, that's true. And man, people just got angry and it was fun. I was like, man, this is great. I could troll people with this account too. I don't have to be. I can be semi-serious at the same time. Then I was able to torch the Magic as well. That was fun to do. And so, being the trolls and seeing the team finally get to this point where they're so good that people hate them is awesome. We've posed this question before. Do you want your team to be likable or hateable? And I also posted it with my Marlins stuff. I'm like, man, I would love for people to hate the Marlins. Not from a Charles regrets or hates the fact they lost. That was the one that got away. That was your 2011 Miami Heat moment, right? Before that,
where it's
like, oh.
line actually, I wouldn't even say 2011 Miami Heat. That is because Dallas was sneaky good. That is the hold on, I got my equivalent here. That was Lakers Pistons.
Maybe, but then you realize that team was pretty stacked in hindsight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So regardless, seeing the Panthers this good has been great, and I'm very happy for everybody that's endured all of the shit too that fans have gone through. ownership has gone through, organization has gone through, players have gone through. We've had players who've left Sunrise and gone to other cities. Like, man, this is the first time I've ever played in front of a bunch of people before, and have, shit talked three, in a subtle way, but you know what they mean behind this franchise's back. And so people remember that. And people will come back at you with the same heat, and even more, when we finally get our opportunity to do so. And this has been pent up for about a decade now, where fans can finally do this. And it's justified. We actually have, we can actually back it up at this point. Now, winning the Stanley Cup would definitely really help with that. But for right now, we've got a lot of time to enjoy this, because it may not come again for a while. I'm like, hey, they're going to send him out to Europe next season. NHL announced more games out in Europe. The Panthers will be playing the Dallas Stars in Finland. So, they'll get a nice tervetuloa from everybody out there. I think Barkov will play in his home arena at that time. But they played Finland games before. And I'm just hoping they get that outdoor game. That would be really fun to see, an outdoor game in Miami. And everybody keeps saying it's not possible. It's possible. I know they can do it.
Go with roller skates instead of something else.
Lone Depot Park, close the roof.
Sucks.
Lone Depot Park, close the roof. Just it doesn't have to be open, right? If it's look, I mean, yesterday was what, 50 degrees out here in Miami. Just play it at night, and we're good to go. And but it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad that it's happened. As far as the rest of the NHL, I mean, let's see, we're at 27 minutes, and we started the show late. But the Boston Bruins and the Panthers have finally caught up to Boston. They have the longest road winning streak right now in the NHL, 11 games in a row on the road. They could tie the record with another win after this. They've separated themselves from the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are sitting firmly at third place there in the Atlantic Division. And then you've got the Metro Division. The New York Rangers are also one of the top-tier teams in the Eastern Conference. They're running pretty good on all cylinders there. They won their outdoor game against the Islanders in overtime. And they came back, too. They were down like 4-1 at one point. Or 4-0, I think. And then they came back to beat the Isles. I don't know if you saw the way the players came into the arena, Charles, or the stadium.
Which ones?
The outdoor games that they just played at MetLife. So
no, I saw everybody dressed as Jaromir Jagr.
Well, that was the Pittsburgh Penguins. So
yeah,
that's another thing I got to mention too. But the New Jersey Devils came in with tracksuits a la Sopranos.
Okay, fitting. Gabagool.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Flyers went in sweatpants, the ski cap, and the sweatshirt, like Rocky, basically.
Yep. I saw that. Which hold on, that's more personality. Yeah. One of my favorite movies. Probably number 6. I always have to restructure it.
We've never really done a movie tier list either, or like our favorite movies either. Maybe because I'm uncultured swine here, but yeah.
We have plenty of time with it. We could definitely do that to a small degree.
Goose 2.0 will rectify.
Yeah. We rectify everything, but that's where we talk about the appeal, because you won't see that camaraderie and teammanship in a lot of sports. Just saying.
True.
Just saying.
Yeah, football's kind of hard to get 53 guys on the same page. The New York Rangers went in as, I think they went. How do you think the New York Rangers go? Oh, they went in. Theirs was kind of They were wearing NYPD and FDNY shirts and hats or whatever like that.
I mean, you're kind of stuck calling it because that's like a typical go-to.
Yeah.
It's the safest bet.
Yeah, it's the safest.
For classic for any New York team.
They're in Manhattan. They're the only team that's in Manhattan of all those.
Yeah, they're not going to dress up as Ghostbusters, bud.
Yeah, that would have been sick. And then
you would think, right? You would think, because they should, because they have literally a stick.
Yeah,
and you could do that, but what do we know?
And the New York Islanders are boring. They just win in their normal suits and ties and stuff. So, not really an homage, but I don't know, an homage to anything. They actually literally play next to the Belmont Stakes, so they could have gone in jockey gear, which would have been pretty funny to see. But But unfortunately, they didn't, so that's what happened. But New York Rangers are up there. The Carolina Hurricanes are there.
Bunch of jerks.
They're there. They're playing good hockey. They've kind of just, whether they can actually make the jump depends. Trade deadline's coming up, so we'll see if they can get a piece that'll put them over the top to go ahead of the Rangers. But they're not a bad team, that's for sure. The Philadelphia Flyers have hung around in third place there. They're surprising pretty much everybody, but they're under John Tortorella, and Torts is always a fun coach to have, and
he's certainly not the Doc Rivers of the gang.
No, he's not. We love Torts here. We love Torts. Yeah. So, and then finally the last two spots, Lightning have rectified a lot of stuff. Kucherov is scoring a bunch of points and a boatload of points. Vasilevsky's this season. Not really,
that's goalie, right?
but relatively speaking, for him is above average for everybody else. And the Detroit Red Wings. So Steve Yzerman's plan might actually come to fruition. He might actually get them into the playoffs for the first time in a long time and copy what he did with the Lightning. And so there you go. And then finally, like the Devils, who are trying to get back into the swing of things. They started off.
They haven't been in the island of relevancy from as long as I've been on the show. They've kind of been on the quiet.
Well, last season they were. They won like 100. They had 100 points and they were up there. They were.
Did they get eliminated in the first round?
Yeah. So, but regardless, they still have great pieces. They got the Hughes Bros, and
I mean, I kind of want to pick at that scab a little bit, bud. Like getting into the playoffs, doing well, but only getting like bounced out in the first round. What does it accomplish? You know,
but I think you have to look at it from the perspective of they're like the Baltimore Orioles, that type of like, hey, we got these young guys, we got this team that's up and coming, and they make the jump, right? And they still got bounced. That's what happened to the Orioles. They got swept, but it was still like, oh, this is the beginning of something good. But so far it's kind of like a sophomore slump type of thing right now with them.
Which is probably going to happen to Baltimore. Just call him that shot right now. I got a skinny-legged Giancarlo Stanton. I'm saying it. I don't care. You guys want to hold on to one season? Please.
New York Islanders, after that, they're injured. There's just nothing going, really. The Washington Capitals are old. They finally, they're old. They're an old team. Alex Ovechkin's old, finally. He's an old man. He's
37-year-old like Russian. Like, what do you guys expect?
He's not scoring he's scoring at such a low pace, such a low shooting percentage that people are like, he's not gonna catch Gretzky now. And he's not that far away, but he's like 62 goals away, and that average of
600 goals. Speaking of Gretzky,
yeah. So like
or 600 assists. I'm sorry.
So, yeah. Ovechkin's at a point where he, we'll see, but that or the Capitals will hang on to him because they're going to build a new arena, and they're going to hang on to him until he retires finally, and then they'll open up the new arena with him, I don't know, raising his number to the rafters, right? That seems like the plan right now.
He was always the big name, even to the casuals, and that they got it in 2020 for their Stanley Cup. 2018? What, really? Damn. It went by quickly.
It's a long time.
6 years. Ugh. Yeah. Old right there, bud.
Another team that's old, the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Mm-hmm.
They have the worst power play. They honored Jaromir Jagr. They finally retired his number, even though he's still technically not retired because he still plays for his own team that he owns in the Czech Republic. But they finally retired his number. It was great. He did a lot for the Florida Panthers down here too, and they honored him by only scoring 1 goal in their game. So they still have an awful power play, and the team is old, and I think rational Penguins fans are probably looking at it like, might have to rebuild.
Well, and it's both Crosby and Malkin that are old. They're both in their mid-30s, right? I don't know if Malkin's still on that team.
Yeah, Malkin and Crosby, those guys, but I can't see Sidney Crosby in another uniform. I can see Malkin. I can see him going away, but
He's a defensive wing.
It
right?
feels like the Capitals and no, Malcolm's not. He's a forward.
No, he's a forward. Okay.
But the defenseman is Letang. That's their other one. But I don't know what the Penguins are going to do. I think they're trying to be like Boston, where they can just rebuild on the fly, but it hasn't worked. And they might end up being like Detroit, where they hung on to the glory days for way too long, and it took a long time for the Red Wings to get to even this point because they were in shambles. Their farm system was awful, and they just hung on to the old dudes until they retired. And it's nice for the ceremonies and the goodbyes, but you as a Yankee fan know sometimes it might be a little too long in the tooth for some time. It's hard to you can get lucky. So everybody's trying to say, oh, maybe we can get our guy that brings us into the next era, but sometimes that doesn't happen. The Sabres have disappointed everybody this season. People thought they'd be in a playoff spot. Nope. The Montreal's where they should be, I think. All right. Some actual incremental improvements there. The Ottawa Senators are not where people thought they would be either. They're in the same boat as Buffalo. And then the Columbus Blue Jackets are where everybody thinks they should be, which is awful. But you got your Dallas Stars. That is another team that is very dangerous, and maybe this is the year where they finally get over the hump as well. They're kind of like the Carolina Hurricanes in that sense. You got your Avs, who are always dangerous. Your perennial team that's always in the hunt. The Winnipeg Jets, who are doing it on the backs of their defense and their goaltending. They have the best goaltending tandem in the NHL right now. So, and you have the Vancouver Canucks, who have not faltered yet. They have the most points in the league. People thought that they would have petered out and gotten back down to earth, but they still haven't. But I fear, Charles, the Vancouver Canucks will, because right now the metrics are showing that they've got a lot of the luck-based stats are pretty high right now. And you know what happens with luck, man? When it's good, it's good. But when it's bad, it's bad. And that thing evens out eventually. And my fear is that the Canucks will even out at probably like the worst time. Because they have a insanely high shooting percentage as well. Which is not sustainable. Like, that might hit in April, where they come back down to earth. Especially during playoff hockey. The Golden Knights are 10 points behind them, but it's still a defending champion. They've got some issues. Jack Eichel's injured every once in a while, but they've got Aiden Hill, who has shown that, he's a Stanley Cup winning goaltender, and he's actually really good. And that sucks for the Panthers because they should have beaten them last season if they were healthy. Edmonton Oilers. We talked about them past, Charles. Everybody was laughing at them. Nobody's laughing anymore. That is a offensive juggernaut. Still always some questions with defense and goaltending, but they've righted a lot of the ship now. And if they get hot at the right time, they're dangerous because they got the horses to do it. LA Kings have petered out. They're kind of middling there at 64 points. They're winning 3 straight right now, so maybe they're finally riding the ship, but they should be firmly here in one of these spots anyways. Then the St. Louis Blues, they fired their coach, and it's worked out a little bit for them. But the Nashville Predators, they're under Andrew Brunette now, and it's going all right. The Minnesota Wild are also, they've got old goaltenders, and their goaltending is pretty bad. You're playing with them right now, right? Or no?
I had the Winnipeg Jets, and the goaltender was goddamn trash on the offense rush. Yeah. So I lost the game 4-3. Like, I found offense, but it was hard.
Seattle Kraken are very. They swing from one way to the other. They can be really hot or really cold. There's no real consistency there. So they're middling as well with 57 points. They might get another hot streak, maybe, and that could save their season. But so far, it's one way or the other. They're either really bad or really good.
Panthers up 1-0 to Ottawa.
Yep, still. And Calgary Flames. That team is selling already. They are already selling. They are selling at the deadline. Whatever's going on there is not working. They need to redo what's happening right now. Jonathan Huberdeau has been, unfortunately, very disappointing. They don't know how to use him, and he doesn't work outside of Florida's system, apparently. So it's not working.
He needs to hear
Mackenzie
that.
Weegar is a good defenseman, but they're not going to trade him because it's hard to find those guys. But everybody else is, I mean, you got to sell. You really do have to sell in Calgary and just figure out and start over. Arizona Coyotes are, they're there. They're not good. They had a small part of the season where they were like, oh, they're surprisingly doing all right. But then, make incremental growths. But the huge question, of course, is whether they're going to stay there or not. And then the Anaheim Ducks, a lot of injuries to their stars. It just got nothing going. It is what it is. The San Jose Sharks are awful, but they're not on a record pace to be the worst team ever. And the Chicago Blackhawks are also awful and injured at the same time. So nothing helps. Even Connor Bedard has been out for a few games now, and he's come back. But it's still you don't want to ruin the Golden Boy just yet, right? Got to be real careful with them. This season's not the season. So
it's Connor the baby.
Yeah. Just keep him away from Corey Perry. Okay, so yeah, and Corey Perry's in Edmonton, by the way. So there
Connor
you go.
McDavid.
Yeah, he found a job. I don't know how hot Connor McDavid's mom is, but so there you go. That was the rundown of NHL, Charles. It's 42 minutes here. And NBA, we can talk that, right?
Yeah, let's do the gaming.
Actually, one second. I do want to say a little bit about baseball. Spring training started. You guys...
can we talk about the hats?
We could talk about hats, I guess. I mean...
Yeah, well, say what you got to say about spring break, because I got the email that the hats were available.
Yeah, we got the hats and stuff that just came out for the spring training ones and the batting practice ones for the season. I think each team has a set there. And for me, I liked... I'm going to go on New Era's website real quick because they have like a little backstory to every single one of them with the inspiration and everything like that. But, just some cool designs here. Giancarlo Stanton's skinny now. Little twig. You guys ruined him, by the way.
I don't like it. Well, he wants to be more than just a DH. And who am I to tell that boo-boo not to live his life? My problem is that if he gets hurt, then what were we doing here? What was it all for? What was the sacrifice?
Yeah.
It's like an addict trying not to get another hit, and then you realize that's part of you. Giancarlo, if I may, is the most physically gifted baseball player that has been seen in the entirety of baseball. Y'all can keep your Babe Ruth figures. Y'all can keep your Vladimir Guerrero Jr. figures. Y'all can keep your David Wells kind of figures. I see that man. And I'm like, hubba. And I'm a pretty straight male, but I know when there is someone who is well enough for me to kind of contemplate my existence of how to be better and how to look good and at least like not eat cosmic brownies like I did today, or not eat like also mini Reese's Puff cereals like today. I'm sure he does too, but you're talking about perfection. You can speak to this because you had him when he was with the Marlins. And now I get this. It's not even the Giancarlo, it's just Carl Stanton. And I'm going to call him Carl Stanton for every bit of the season if he's not doing well, because look what they took away from you. And I sent you that thing from Twitter, but they're not dingers, but they're good shots. And what cracks me up is people say, okay, he lost weight for his health. I'm like, sure, the guy never really fielded, but sure. And him being that buff, because it's not fat. It's not fat, man. It wasn't like hey, you got to get on the Pat Riley diet because you're too heavy, 3-week regimen of just fruits and vegetables. It was all that muscle, like ridiculous amount of muscle that has. He was a bodybuilder in a baseball player's uniform, and it doesn't explain why his batting average is 193. Just saying, correlation is not causation. Missing games is one thing, but he really wants 500. It's not unfeasible for the position that he plays and the capacity he can hit. He doesn't strike me as a guy who's ever going to lose power out of nowhere like that. I did the math with you. He has to hit about 22 home runs for 6 years, which I think the remainder of his contract is 7. And if Albert Pujols at 41 can have a fantastic season, hitting 19 homers is what Pujols had at the very end.
Yeah,
it's all feasible.
Yeah, he got on a nice bit of a tear just to get to 700 there.
And the thing is that Giancarlo, I hate to say this, he's never going to be Hall of Fame. So that's why 500 makes no sense to me. Even if he got to the 500, he's never going to be Hall of Fame.
I think he would, to be honest.
Well, this is a good debate.
People will look at him like, oh, this is the first legit 500 that's not tainted by steroids. You know what I mean?
I think missing all those games hurt, though, because, I think you make the argument that he still hit 500 even after missing
exactly.
But I think the MVP saves it so much on that. But those batting averages, you really, because at the end of the day, his overall average as a player is 258. Yeah, and the way he hits, the most I might hope for is for season 230. So let's call it 240 a draw. What do you want the Hall of Fame to be? It's one thing. I don't know. It's one thing where we're getting and accepting that now that pitchers who are going to hit Hall of Fame are no longer going to be sub 3 ERA. They're going to be 3 ERA and over. I would feel like that's what Sabathia and Hernandez are coming into, right? But look. You know how I feel about the man. We did actually a deep dive analytics on how he contributed more than Judge in the playoffs. He's statistically a better playoff player than Judge was for the Yankees. And that was very eye-opening because I remember you and I were just in the chat on it. I'm like, no, look at this man. Look at this fraud, right? And I legitimately have enjoyed having him on the team when he does play. He is a face of the franchise. I think he can connect people. He has a swing that is, and baseball for the kids is about the swing, right? The Ken Griffey's, the Gary Sheffields, the Ichiros, all that fun jazz. The Jeters. He plays for that team that I want us to be villains again. I wish we were hated. It's so hard because there was a period of time where we were likable and now we're forgotten.
Let's see.
And I was like, ugh.
So.
But you were saying about baseball. I'm sorry.
But
I was reminiscing about it's like he went on crack. That's how it feels like. This beautiful goddess is just now on crack because he lost all the weight. He has got twig legs. Follow JD Addison, whatever his name is, on Twitter. It was just hurting my heart.
So we've got these hats. So it's all about revisiting the past. They all have some sort of connection, I guess, to a past player or team or just era. So I guess they're showing the Diamondbacks are Luis Gonzalez, right? So that makes sense. The Atlanta Braves is, I guess, this current era because they're showing Austin Riley there. So
yeah,
which is kind of weird that the Braves would just do a current guy with all of their history. You think it'd be
right? Well, Chipper didn't help himself by being kind of.
Yeah, but you would think
really chipper.
You would think they'd be like, oh, Andrew Jones, just to help with that narrative to try and get him into the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Let's push some agendas here, folks. If you're gonna do this, right? But
anything, go for the safe bet like Glavine or something.
Yeah, one of those big 3 pitchers, right? Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, any of those guys you could have done. So Baltimore went with who was this guy? What'd they go with? They went with nobody. I don't know.
Andrew Jones, that's what you got, right?
In Baltimore, they had some guys, man. Sheesh. The 90s Orioles had some guys. Brady Anderson hit 50 home runs one season. You could have just done an homage to that, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know. They just didn't pick anybody. That's strange. They're middle of an ownership transition, but sure. The Boston Red Sox went with Jim Rice.
Ugh.
So he made the Hall of Fame. Cubs went with, I guess, nobody either. Interesting.
Well,
they don't want to acknowledge Sammy, I guess.
Yeah, the one guy you could have acknowledged.
They have not. Sammy says hasn't been back to Wrigley Field since he retired. So, I guess that could have been a way to fix that bridge, but unfortunately they didn't. The White Sox also did not either. But
who do they really have? Paul Konerko?
Yeah, probably.
I'm being facetious when I say it. Yeah,
Jermaine Dye. AJ Pierzynski.
That's the problem. We actually named you 3 legitimate star players that the White Sox could affiliate with.
Who else is
and
on that
we
team?
don't care about them. It really would. I mean, Mark Burley.
Freddie Garcia, did he play for that? I think he did.
Think so.
The Reds. Who do the Reds pick? Johnny Bench. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a go-to right there. All right. There you go. Johnny Bench. The Cleveland did nobody because they can't.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the name. Like, maybe because they used to be the Indians. But, I mean, you had, Manny and Jim Tomei and Omar Vizquel and a bunch of guys. You could have picked there.
The pitchers, you were dominant.
Colorado did nobody either?
Well, they got nobody. I think they could have done Todd Helton.
Yeah, they could have. Yeah, he made, look at that fraudulent Hall of Fame. You're not even honoring him with the hat.
You didn't believe in your own guy.
There you go. Detroit Tigers went with Alan Trammell. Okay, that works. 80s Hall of Fame as well. So won a World Series with them. The last World Series they ever won. Astros went with Jeff Bagwell.
Fine. I never had beef with the bag. Never had beef with bag.
Yeah, add elite numbers from that perspective. The Royals did nobody either.
I mean, collectively speaking, who do you know that wasn't on that World Series team?
I mean, anybody from that 2015 team. If you want to go the 80s as well, just
you can't go Eric
default.
Hosmer,
Exactly. Angels went with. Where'd they go with? Kind of go to the decades. Let's see. They didn't really name a player. They have this guy. Is this?
I think Vladdy Guerrero, man. Right?
They didn't really name a guy, they didn't. They have a guy's photo there, but I forgot who that is.
2004 was...
Troy Gloss? Yeah, he played for them, right?
Yeah, and 2004 was 20 years ago, so that's why I'm like,
yeah.
What, they got 2002.
2002, yeah, but
22 years ago, so you could not put any of that team?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess some teams didn't name actual guys, but it just showed photos of them. They're like, oh, our entire history is really rich. We can't just pick one guy to honor here. So, I mean, I think they have like Steve Garvey here for the Dodgers, which is okay, fine. From the like 70s, 80s era of Dodgers, I guess that works, right? But okay, for sure. We couldn't pick one guy. The Red Sox picked a guy, so I'm not sure what happened there. Let's see. I would assume the Brewers are like nobody. They didn't really name a guy. They have Robin Yount, but they don't actually name a guy.
I mean, for me, all you can get me on for the Brewers would be Prince Fielder, right?
If they're recent history, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about the Brewers.
Christian Yelich is like the next guy, right?
Well, he did get an MVP, but should have gotten to it.
I guess some of these teams are naming like the 91 team itself, not just any. So like the Minnesota Twins are just saying, "Oh, this is honoring the 91."
It's batting practice, so wouldn't you want to put the most decorated hitter?
Yeah,
whether it be homers, RBIs, or batting average hits through the season, not even batting average.
Yeah, the Mets didn't name anybody either. They're just like, "Oh, the '86 Mets."
Do you think they're ever gonna love Mike Piazza? I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking. I always feel like he's that. I have strong feelings on. Oh, I got a goal. But I feel like he made them a little bit prominent. Yeah. Just saying.
Yankees didn't name anybody either. But like, we got 27 championships and
well, but that's the thing. If you're talking about going to the past,
I mean, since we're here, let's talk about. I mean, the Yankees have this one with like the pinstripes with the NY, and they got the other one with like the black and white.
May I?
Yeah.
So I was looking at the logo, but the problem is I'm too white to hold out the flat bill. Yeah. I'm sorry, kids. I'm sorry. That's how my head shaped it.
Flex
one. And I need the flex one. I need the duck bill. But I was looking at the 39-30 stretch fit. Mm. And my thing is I don't know my hat size anymore, so that's why I go with small, medium, larges, because it's too in between. I might dive in deep. $36 is nothing. I'm sorry. It's I'm not even saying that facetiously. It is for something for other people. I don't even wear hats that much, but I was literally telling you last week about the collection of hats I have. I have more Yankee hats I'd like to do. I have not seen a hat this sexy for that team because I love the Yankees. Boring as fuck. 7. Boring as fuck. 8 when it comes to some of these hats. because it's your typical prototypical stuff. And I have Old Faithful.
The NY and whites or the NY Navy or whatever. That's it.
Yeah, well, NY Navy's always been my favorites. What Short Round had at Indiana Jones, that's what I got, man. I'm looking at this right now. I got the 2009 World Series one. I got a black and white. I got another one that's in hiding. I wanted the one that had the top hat, the Yankee Doodle hat with the bat.
Yeah.
But I can't pull off the flat bill, man. And it's either because I'm too white, too tiny. My pants are at my waist. I'm from New York, but I can't wear it that way. I gotta make do. I also want to look good in it, man. You understand? You're an accessorizer. You're an accessorizer, sir. I've seen your gym workouts, ladies. You guys see that. You got the right kind of like knee highs. You got the bandanas. You're Mr. Hat, man. And for me, and you know me for 8 years, essentially. We both know what kind of hat I'm going to have. So I was looking hardcore because the regular season hats, I went on a deep dive. When you sent me that, I don't think you understand the obsession that came into me. I think you knew, but I don't think you understand. I went through 9 pages of Yankee hats. I will send you guys some links into it. So I might just pull that trigger and I might just pick that 9 because it was sexy to me. That's just me. And I know you would encourage me to do it because you have a plethora of hats.
Yeah. I have to control myself when I look at these things because the Marlins batting practice one, I might have to get it.
I mean, right? Like, and here's the thing: we've looked at other batting practice ones. I have not had, and batting practice is like innocuous, but this speaks to me. This speaks to you. Let me see the Marlins real quick because I only saw them like briefing because I know the color coordination.
Yeah, the Marlins is pinstripe teal. It's white, but it's got the solo Marlins logo, which I think is the best logo that they've got right now. I don't like it with the M. I don't like it with wrapped around. I think it's too clunky. I don't think the M is like the font style of it is that enticing. It just kind of looks very.
That's kind of hot, man, and it goes with anything.
Yeah, and it's pinstripe. It's teal. It's the color scheme they probably should. Like I don't care if they bring back the logo itself. I just want the color scheme back, and they honor Jeff Conine with this one. It's like Jeff Conine, and he's got the 2 champions, like the 97 team and Jeff Conine, and he's the only one that was on both teams. So it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. I'm like, okay, this looks like this. I've been kind of peddling this on my own account for a while now. I think the blue uniforms are fine. I actually like them too. But, you gotta do what your real identity is for. You know what I mean? What people actually will go out and be like, oh, yeah, that's the Marlins. Like, they're the only team that can pull that off. A's didn't go with anybody either, but they're moving out of Oakland, so
it's so weird because when you're talking about their past, they have some of the best hitters out there. I think people forget Mark McGwire was actually on that team.
Seiko,
Giambi.
Yeah, Giambi. You had all those guys, and they're like, oh,
you got legitimate batting practice guys.
Ricky Henderson. I mean, they got all these guys, and they're like, oh, we're celebrating the '90s. It's like, first off, they didn't make the playoffs in the '90s except for like 1990, and then. That was when they broke up the entire team, actually. So it's like, if anything, it really is honoring their current era of just like, we're not spending money anymore. So the Phillies is honoring the Philly Fanatic.
Sure.
They've got the Philly Fanatic on the hat now. So he is the most famous Philly.
Yeah.
So I think I'm actually really okay with it, to be honest.
Well, it's your mascot, it's your logo that really kind of builds into it. It gets some identity. And plus, it's fun. These are batting practice hats. It's the equivalent of like NFL, like draft hats, which some of them are actually sexier than regular hats. I look at the Titans ones. You have no idea, dog. But still, I like the Pirates one.
The Pirates one is really good. It's like their 70s homage as well. I mean, it's got the stars on them. I mean, honestly, they should probably just wear these, to be honest.
There's a guy at my gym who has like every MLB hat known to mankind, and I kind of want to be his buddy, but I don't want to break that. But he was wearing a Diamondbacks hat the other day, a Rays hat, a Baltimore's hat, a Yankees hat, and of course, like the one time I was wearing a Yankees shirt, and I don't go talk to him. I mean, but hats bond. Sports fanatics, men or women, are just like that. We see something, we don't tell them. Padres are ugly. What the hell is that?
Yeah, I don't know why this shade of white is kind of weird.
It's the black is too into the white. It needs to be
brown.
Further out.
Remember that?
Or is that brown?
Yeah, it's brown.
Ooh,
remember, that's their color scheme. It's brown and yellow.
Yeah, that's right. The Friars here,
and not. I mean, not honoring anybody. Tony Gwynn's dead. The only player that I kind of wish is still alive. So, the Giants, Will Clark, they actually chose somebody. It's their 80s style.
Just couldn't pick that particular man, right?
I mean,
the guy who would make you
honestly,
and me and Andrew.
They've brought him back. He's always around. He lives around there too, so they have no shame in it. But the Mariners, they're just like, oh, the 80s and mixed with the 90s colors. And obviously, there's only one player that can really honor. It's Ken Griffey Jr., but they're not really showing him. I don't know whose body this is, but they're not really honoring a specific player.
Well, the hard part of that all is because some of the men that they've had, have had some certain accusations, and Ichiro had only retired so recently. No A-Rod. So no A-Rod, no Griffey, no Ichiro. 3 of arguably the best hitters.
Edgar Martinez, they could have had. He's a Hall of Famer as well. But
isn't that kind of crazy, though? You had 3 arguably some of the best pure hitters, steroids or not. Sorry, Andrew. And you're not going to pick any of them?
Cardinals went also like, hey, we have lots of history. We can't just pick one guy with 40s, like 1940s Cardinals. So.
I do like the color scheme, but I think it's because they have a very basic color scheme, like that dark blue.
Yeah, this is a darker blue than what they normally use, which actually looks pretty good on them. It's kind of like the blue that the Yankees use. And I think I've gotten my brother-in-law a hat, like a retro Cardinals hat of that same color. So I'm like, oh, okay, that looks pretty cool. So if I ever did give him another hat, it'll probably be that. The Rays went with Fred McGriff. They went with the Tampa Bay logo that they had back then with their current navy blue color scheme.
Did Andrew hate it? I don't remember.
He actually liked it, and I actually like it too. I think if he's going to buy a hat, that's probably it. I like the other one with the Ray fully like coming at you. That's very, gradient heavy with the yellows and the greens and the purples, but this one's all right too. So if anything, they probably should just switch to that, to be honest.
Well, there's always next year, right?
The Rangers surprised me. They're honoring Rafael Palmeiro.
Really?
Yeah.
The man that MLB doesn't miss at all.
Like, this is the one guy that got caught in 4K taking steroids after being in front of Congress saying he didn't take his damn thing. So, Rafael Palmeiro. They're like, yep, screw it. We won the World Series. We can talk about anybody.
We do what we want,
yeah.
I mean, so that T looks very 1980s. So
it is, funny. Yeah. I mean, that's when he started.
I'm not going to talk about it. It's very funny. I mean, like, I remember Palmeiro on the back end when he was with Baltimore, and how do I want to say
500
this?
home run club, 3,000 hit club.
The most, and all we remember him is him just going to Congress and say, yeah, I did it, and everybody looked at him like snitches get stitches.
And then he got caught, and he like immediately retired.
Yep. And it's just interesting. Like, I don't think he's unlikable, but out of the entire Brian McNamee steroid investigation allegation, he was the least resistant towards it. It's like you could have done the OJ's equivalent of like, yeah, I did it, and if I did, this is how I do it. But Palmer was like, it's whatever, and no one had fun with it.
Yeah. And the Blue Jays went with Joe Carter. Or like, they showed Joe Carter, but they're like, oh, the 90s, 93 team. I'm like, okay.
Well, that powder blue is sexy.
Yeah, it is. That is. They're one of the... A lot of teams actually can pull off that look, and they're one of them, so... makes sense. They're birds, the Blue Jays. And then the Nationals are like 2005. That's when they moved to DC. They've got one World Series. They can't just be like...
So it's got to be, what, Zimmerman?
Yeah, Zimmerman, basically. Just him or... Max Scherzer, but he's still playing, right?
Well, he's not, he's still playing. He jumped around a little bit. Juan Soto, you had for a cup of coffee.
Like Steven Strasburg, but then like they got into a fight with him, so that's not going to work out because they don't want to pay him, even though he's retired and he's still got guaranteed money. So, yeah, that's it. Those are the teams. That's baseball. We actually went over the time that we'll talk about basketball after the break. So, word from our non-sponsors, people and things and places and concepts that we've been enjoying over the last week. I started last week, Charles. Why don't you go?
Sure. So I had to really think about it because I was like, am I going to pick food again? I picked Publix. Food has kind of been a thing because I've been in a gaming funk. But you know what?
True.
I've been selfish. Sometimes, I'm gonna put this on pause. Sometimes I only acknowledge the greats or the excellent when I realize it's okay to acknowledge the good. And the only game that has kept me like propelled to even play games at all has been the current one I'm playing now, NHL 24. So my non-sponsor this week is NHL 24. And Andrew would probably like yell at me because you guys remember the big debate of, like, I just want to get 23. He's like, why would you get it? I'm like, well, I haven't played a hockey game in like 15 years, 12 years, and I want to be more invested. But with this one, and I have nothing to compare it to, which is kind of liberating because it's not like the same thing if I was doing Madden. And you'll never hear me like sponsor Madden unless it's excellent because I know what I'm getting here. But for me, being a new hockey savant, I think it looks good. The mechanics are fine. I think sometimes the shooting with the stick is kind of cheap, and I the idea if I'm playing with a hockey stick, I want to use the analog stick to go from there. Graphics look good. The gameplay is fine. I kind of wish it was similar to some of the old ways where I can switch into goalie mode and then regular players, but hey, I can't control it. I've done the 1v1s to kind of learn my own shooting. I've done the 3v3s. I think it has in a actual longevity of a lifespan to be played. I think it's the perfect game to play during the show. I've enjoyed it. It doesn't offer anything new to me, right? Because it's all new to me. So, but it's not going to be anything different that you might compare. You got it for free. So that makes me go from there. It's a solid 7. Yeah. And 7 is good enough for me because it's a hockey game. It's a sports game, guys. It's a multiplayer. I am never going to play against anybody. I'm telling you, I would get my ass handed to me, 9, 10. Completely. But what I would do is take on the 1v1s. I would take on the 3v3 circuits. I would probably do World Shell if I want to be trying. I would create probably a dynasty at some point. It has a lot of longevity for what I got for free, but because I use gift cards and everything, but it's enjoyable. One of the things I'm actually going to highlight is I think it has some of the best darn audio play-by-play in any sports games I've gone on. Like, it trumps Madden. It's right up there with NBA 2K, which I got for free. I got 2022 for free from PlayStation because I gave it free. So it was good. I haven't touched it because that was the problem. I was so into deep with basketball. Was the whole point, right? Like, you're just doing like with Madden and like with NBA and like I have my big group of Madden guys. So it's like 5 of us. So we can all get together. That's how we coalesce and we play out. We hang out when we're all in different states or different cities. And then with NBA, just me and my buddy Tony. But once I start just doing my own draft franchises with random people, I don't need to know teams like that. So I don't have like a team loyalty where this gets me back there. But controls are smoothish to a degree. Commentary is fun. I have been in a funk for gaming for a while. It's the reason why I bought Helldivers, and we'll talk about that maybe in part 2, because I have all these single players. I kind of want to play the single players, but Alan Wake 2 just let me bone dry. And then 2 Degree Super Mario in a good way. And Super Mario RPG kind of capped off because when you have the most convoluted narrative of a game with gameplay, then I go and play the thing that's probably the most simplest narrative. Because Super Mario RPG is very simple. Yeah, like, there's nothing complicated about it. Enjoyable. But I've been in that funk, man. So this is the only thing that's been going through the shows. I didn't want to touch WWE because there's just too much wrestling right now. And it gets like that during WrestleMania. I've told you this.
So you had the personal viewpoint of it from the Royal Rumble standpoint as well. So.
Yeah. But I would recommend for anybody who has skipped a couple of years. I can't compare it to a couple of years, so that's not going to be fair. But for anybody who's looking to get into it, because right now you can get it for like $30, because right now as when playoffs can start, they're going to drop it to like $20. I think it's worth the investment. I think it's better than Madden because Madden's broken. But here's the thing, I only play Madden in my online franchise that's a fantasy draft. It doesn't even have like real teams, real players on the same team. You know what I mean? So that's why, that's all. I only play with the boys. So if I'm playing the computer, it's still in that franchise. But for this game alone, I think it's a good entry for anybody who's learning about hockey. I think the commentary is very good. They have a good mix of it. I think it has a dearth of gameplay varieties. I'm still learning the cusp of it. We went past the rookie mode because it was too easy to shoot, so it helps me learn into it and incentivize into it. So instead of food, I'm doing this. I'm doing hockey, and I watch Shoresy, and I always kind of feel that always kind of helps me love some of the hockey stuff, including with Letterkenny, which I got to finish up the final season. But NHL 24, I think it's a good time. Hopefully EA with their presentation, you can speak to it because you play the game, you have the game, keeps me invested to it because aside from this, the only other game that I played from them was the best hockey game that we all play was NHL 94, right? And I think this is a good way of kind of like getting involved with it and just having fun. And if you just have a couple minutes to pill out, like 20-minute games is what I'm doing, I'm going to increase it a little bit. But I've been able to play a variety of games. I have 21 hours into it, and that's mostly through when I bought it on Black Friday and then from doing the show. And I'll tell you now, I'd be surprised if I don't break 50, because I can really see it just being the game that we do during the show, because it's so simple, so easy. Sometimes I need attention from it, but I am enjoying it. And it is a 7. I can't go higher than that, but 7 is a good thing, man. Like, it means it's worth the money. Anything other that we'll talk about. 6s are kind of acceptable, but it's a 7. I enjoy it. NHL 24, if you're looking to get into the game, into the actual sport, I suggest you try it out, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I did try to play a goalie, and it wasn't too hard, but that is really dependent on who's taking the shot. That's all I'm saying. Because at that time, it wasn't like the most devious shooter. But if I had a, McDavid on me,
yeah,
I'd probably be donezo. So get you some, promo code show game. Not game show, but show game.
Yeah. I haven't really delved into it as deep as I probably should, but maybe because we're in the middle of the actual season itself, and I'm actually paying attention to the real hockey. So, and maybe I could do it as a way to kind of refresh myself on some of the guys as well, because the players actually do. Some of them actually care about their player ratings a little bit. Some teams do like a segment before the season and tell them like what their rating is. So that's kind of a fun thing to see. But maybe during the actual off season of hockey, I might play that, because I did it for baseball, where I wasn't really playing MLB The Show throughout the season, right? Then Marlins had their run a little bit there, and they get eliminated. Okay, World Series happens, and then like somewhere around November, I was just like playing MLB The Show as my pre-sleep game, right? So I think I'll maybe do that for hockey too once we head into April, and if hopefully the Panthers go all the way. But if not, then I might just have to pick it up when I start missing the game, right? It's a good thing to kind of keep connected to that in the off season. All right, well, for me, so my non-sponsor is Sonic Prime. So this is the Sonic the Hedgehog show that's on Netflix, exclusive to Netflix right now. And so the premise of this show, it's a little bit different than the other ones, for sure. It's the latest Sonic the Hedgehog animated series at this point. We had the original one, which was an actual narrative with freedom fighters and all that stuff. You had the Saturday morning cartoon randomness version of that show. He was voiced by Steve Urkel on both of those, and then Julia White. And then you had an OVA that they made in Japan for him. Then you had the Sonic Underground, which is a terrible TV show. It was also voiced by Jaleel White.
Fox Kids, right?
Somewhere like that, or Kids WB, one of those. It was on one of those, right? And he was voicing 3 characters: Sonic, his brother Manic, and his sister Sonia. So if you've ever rewatched this, Charles, Jaleel White is trying to voice a girl, and it is awful. It is ear splitting. He is not good at it. They did not want to pay a voice actress to voice one character, apparently. Usually I would assume they would have like tried to voice like a woman to voice just the women, right? But they're like, Jaleel White can do it, so.
Or like a young kid.
Yeah, or a little, somebody. But nope. So that was that. And then you had Sonic X, which was on Fox. So there was that. And then the latest one before that was the Sonic Boom show. The game was terrible, but the show was all right. I actually
fun for the memes.
Yeah, I like the show. I like season 2 actually of the show. They kind of knew what they had.
Wasn't Knuckles just a himbo? Basically?
That's the one you always show comparing me when I take the gym shots when I'm wearing red. So that was that. But it was an all right TV show. Season 2 was better than season 1, and Dr. Eggman's the best character in the show. But this one is serious. And then we've got the Knuckles show that's going to be on Paramount Plus. But this one is it's well animated. It's probably the best CG animated Sonic show at this point. Characters are very lively, everything like that. Sonic tries to stop Dr. Eggman from getting to these crystals that kind of control space and time. And Sonic, being who he is a bit reckless. And Shadow the Hedgehog's like, you got trying to stop him from doing whatever. And Sonic breaks this crystal and it splits time and space. And he's ruined his world. But he's also created different alternate worlds where all of his friends and him are different iterations of themselves. So he ends up in this area that's a little bit an homage to the original Sonic the Hedgehog show, where Dr. Eggman's taken completely over and everybody is living under him, but it's not him. It's 5 different versions of himself, like a baby version of himself, like a teenager version of himself, and an old man version of himself. And they're the Egg Council is what they're called. And Knuckles and Rouge...
The Cancel Ricks, basically.
Yeah, basically, in a sense. And then Rouge and Knuckles are freedom fighters trying to start a rebellion of some sort in the underground. And Sonic doesn't have all of his speed just yet. He has to find a way to regain his speed, and he finds Tails, but Tails is Tails is this guy named Nine, and he's very emo in that sense, and he's living on his own. He doesn't have any friends, but he's also still very smart. And Amy has been turned into a robot, so she's been roboticized. And so Sonic goes from one place and he ends up in a different world where Knuckles is a pirate captain and this and that. So, but now I've gotten to season 3. They're on season 3 now. And the show's legitimately intriguing me. Like I'm actually very invested in it.
And what people need to understand is you don't watch a lot of stuff.
No, I don't.
When you do, you do.
When I do, I do. And slapping Sonic the Hedgehog on something will get me to watch. So,
I mean, you're watching the Knuckles show for sure.
Yeah, I am. So I will do the Paramount Plus free, whatever that they're going to do. Unless they merge with somebody, because I've heard rumors of that. Anyways, I think the show is, for Sonic fans especially, you should watch it. I think it's legitimately well written, and there is some actual intrigue and everything like that. I was watching the last episode of season 2, and I'm like, oh no, no way, he's gonna do this. And so I am legitimately invested in it. I was left in suspense of certain parts, and now I'm on season 3. I haven't finished it just yet, but it is legitimately a very nice and well written show. I mean, it's not baby in that sense where it's made for little kids. I think it's in that nice space where it's just a show made for Sonic fans, and it's an alternate sort of timeline type of thing where it's like, okay, this thing can stand on its own, and you don't have to completely know everything about Sonic to get it. But it does help a little bit as far as the dynamics with the characters, because they don't really sit down and explain like, oh, Shadow's this, and Shadow's and Sonic's this and this and that. It's like you kind of need to know who the characters are from the games and stuff, but it's like, okay, fine. But from there, it's just a starting point. So yeah, Sonic Prime. Promo code Chili Dogs. Let's go with that. Yeah.
I was expecting Sonic Speed, but that's from the Smash Brothers. But Chili Dogs is always a good choice.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's good. It's good. It's got some different spins on some characters as well that came out in season 2. I'm just like, oh, I like this. I like the direction they went with this. So yeah. All right. An hour 20 at this point, Charles, but it's 9:06. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about basketball, and then we can move on to wrestling and get out of here, right?
Yeah.
So, NBA All-Star Game, I just want to get that out of the way. I did not pay attention whatsoever.
At all.
I didn't care. I didn't watch any, like, even on Twitter, I didn't really see much of highlights, to be honest.
There's no highlights.
Like it's from like the skills competition. I know Dame Lillard won, right? Something 3-point contest.
He got the 3-point contest and he got the All-Star MVP.
Yeah, and
that could have been our representative, by the way. Just saying.
And he did say something like he gave like his list of top 5 players in the NBA, and he put Bam there and not Giannis. So, he's still got that petty in him.
Well,
we're still sending messages to Joe Cronin. You know what I mean?
We like Giannis here, so we're not going to talk that stuff. But still,
yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is a knock on Joe Cronin more than anything else.
Oh yeah, well, petty tour, revenge tour, 2023, 2024. My little thing. Yeah, my thing on the skills contest, because we saw Jaime trying his thing in the dunk contest, didn't get even the jump shot. Jaylen Brown. And then Matthew McClung, I think his name, wins because he's off of Sacramento. Can we not bring in people who are not even cracking in the rotation? Can we just stop that? They can't
get nobody though. They can't.
Then don't have it. Then let them rest. Right? Everybody's going to show up at 3-point stuff. They're not going to show up in a dunk contest. You're not going to give him money, Adam Silver, to play. And to be fair,
in here now.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. McClung, Jaquez, and Brown, with all respect to Jaquez and acknowledgement to Brown, they're not even the best dunkers I've seen in the league. And no, we're never going to get the LeBrons. We're not going to get Zion. We're not going to get, all these other guys. But let's just not have it. I don't need it. I understand the ratings need it.
I feel like, man, Adam Silver probably would. Maybe you should beg LeBron to do it one time, like your last All-Star game.
No, because you know what? Then it's rigged, and then Twitter won't shut the hell up about it. You and I both know this.
So there's
LeBron
winning in
this. Standing dunk. No, LeBron could just do a basic dunk. Nothing. I once saw Blake Griffin jump over a car, a Kia, with what's his name? His point guard Baron Davis driving it. And now I get this. So I don't even want it, man. Just cancel it.
Okay, so yeah, then the All-Star game was also just guys just chucking the ball towards the net, and Adam Silver basically like, well, that was a basketball game, all right. So even he's kind of a little regretful as to the monster that he's created at this point, which is that. The NBA is gonna eventually just be what the Pro Bowl is, right? They're just gonna just have some silly games that have nothing to do with the game itself, and it's just like, okay, let's just hang out in Indianapolis for a weekend.
So I do have a recommendation on how you can make the All-Star game interesting. You create 1, 2, 3, 4-pointers.
Okay, it could be an experiment, right? Because people have been talking about doing a 4-point line at this point, since guys are being able to hit that 3 from nearly halfway out now.
But you basically make it into a blacktop game. If anybody who's ever played with a blacktop, it's not 2s and 3s, maybe it's 1s and 2s. So you reassess it 1, 2, 3s, and 4s, right? Anything past that 25 range is going to be a 4. And I think you play around with fouls. I really do. You can have fun with it. I think it's useless because basketball is too long to begin with. So asking them to do it in between for a game that's serious is tough task to ask for, but I feel incomplete with it.
There's one thing about baseball I want to talk about a little bit. I don't know if you saw with the Anthony Rendon and people were trashing him for saying he doesn't baseball's not his priority. I don't have a problem with that.
I have no problem with it at all. One, I think it's a good surly personality. Two, it's the Angels, so of course they get somebody like that when they have one workhorse that is Mike Trout versus him. And then 3, most importantly, at the end of the day, it is a job. No one does. You know who does it for the love of the game? If I could be that guy, it's the guys who were. It's Pete Rose Jr. Stuck in the minor leagues for so long that's hoping for the day to be in the major leagues. But once you're in the major leagues, man, you're in the major leagues, and what you should only care about is money. What's better than money? More money. And I know it sounds soulless. I know it sounds nihilistic, but if you want to play for free at your local county club, at your little Hal Patty Park.
I think this is people who don't cover sports, to be honest, and who have never covered it in, heck, even at my perspective, where you see the way that guys are and who they've their personalities and just kind of see the background of sports, because it's like anything. Once you are actually in it, sometimes that aura goes away, right? These guys achieved their dream of making it, but sometimes they see the reality of it, and maybe it's not as glamorous or as fun as they thought it was. And then eventually it's like, okay, well, Anthony Rendon did what he needed to do. He got paid. He had his career year in 2019, and his team won the World Series, and he got paid. And he accomplished it. He did it. He won right there. Doesn't matter. The Angels gave him a bunch of money, guaranteed money too. Doesn't matter at this point. Now, I mean, that's it. But I have no problem with the guy basically being like everybody else and like, hey, I don't like my job. Just like
I got no problem with it, but once again, it's my problem with the modern day, Twitter finger people, is that they misread and like went on the mistake, because he's saying that, I'm a father, I'm a husband, that I have other priorities, being a good man. He's at that stage in his 30s where he realizes that, those high school youths and dreams have been eclipsed by actual responsibilities. So let me tell you something. In my mid-30s, I'm 34. If I can have a career that pays me hundreds of millions of dollars, I just have to go do my job just so I can make sure I pay for kids' college, not get taxed egregiously, and then also be able to live a life where I'm not harassed by stalkers. I feel Anthony Rendon. But the problem is I'm putting it on pause because I'm talking with my hands. The American conditioning about sports literally has to be breathe it, believe it, inspire it, right? This whole message. It's what it was in football. That's the reason why you hated the Taylor Swift stuff, because something came out of left field, no pun intended, because it's baseball. But you didn't like it. Now you get somebody who goes and says, "I'm not doing the Shohei Ohtani, where I think he's a dumbass." At 11, where I'm going to defer and all this stuff because I want to build the best team. And I was like, seen all done, all right. Yeah, I just go in and do my job. And I think what happens is a different story if people expect him to be a production guy, where he's MVP running, he's Gold Glove running, he's Silver Slugger running, and he's never been any of that since he signed. But okay, your point. Chris Bryant got paid a ton of money by the Orioles, didn't do anything. We paid, Jacoby Ellsbury. Nothing comes from it. This is part of the game. So someone just says, it's all right. Like, you don't know the other stuff that he's doing, but it's kind of like bothers people. I have no beef with it. I don't think you have any beef with it. If anything, it makes me like Rendon even more, because what if he actually has a good year? But at the end of the day, who cares? Because he's not, we're going to get inflammatory, but you open the door. He's not being desperate as a certain former major league pitcher who's saying he'll take the veterans minimum because he's been blackballed, not because he was found to commit any kind of sexual assault or abuse, because he wasn't, but because he can only get off on beating the shit out of women. I'm not even counting as a 12. That's a fact. Looking at you, Trevor Bauer, right? So if a guy is going to say that he doesn't like playing,
or that it's not it's not his top priority. That's what he
or his top priority. Said, Yeah, and somebody else is desperate. And I know it's apples and oranges, guys, but guess what? They're still fruit, so I'm going to make that argument of who you're going to support it to, because Twitter's kind of a disgusting place where people will show you support where like someone's like, someone should just sign him and go from there. I don't know. Your priorities need to be reevaluated. That's just me.
Well, speaking of people getting paid and kind of wondering, it's just taking it because somebody's just handing it to him. Doc Rivers. He had that. Favorite. Did you see that interview? Did you see the?
Of course I did.
Yeah, where he's just like, "Why are you calling me? Why are you doing this to the Milwaukee Bucks?
Why are you firing this guy who's like 20 games over 500?"
And they're like, "Well, we did it anyways. It's too late now." And he's like, "Well, all right, I'll sign them." You know what? And it actually kind of makes me respect Doc Rivers more now, because he has to know what his legacy is, right? Like he just has to. What his legacy is. Like he knows that 2008 Celtics team, and then like everything that's happened afterwards, and how people perceived him, how he was like one of the top 15 coaches, and people were like, "What the fuck, 5?" So like,
I want to say he's like on that Dusty Baker level, but Dusty, were just happy that he got one. So you gotta give me a guy who got it.
But even like, then, Dusty was had to wait like towards the end of it. So it's almost, it felt earned by the end of it, right? Whereas like Doc, it was.
Oh my God! I understand who we are. Is it hold on, hear me out here.
Semi-earned, but
is it a Dave Roberts equivalent? Not counting the whole
well,
cheating.
we've compared him to Dave Roberts so far,
yeah,
and
or it could be the Alex Cora minus the cheating.
Maybe,
but yeah, actually, Doc Rivers can coach a good regular season team. I will say that.
Well, true, and he's able to coach up teams that are not filled with stars as well, because that's what he did with the Magic. That's what he did with the Clippers in their little bit of downtime as well.
Oh, I would disagree because he had Chris Paul and Blake Griffin on that, bud.
No, but towards the end of that, when they were getting rid of those guys, he had like that one season where the team was kind of.
Blake was hurt.
Yeah.
At that point, he was done.
Didn't they trade Chris Paul at that point?
There.
Yeah.
I think Paul was still there. Paul was there
injured.
for him forever.
Yeah.
It was always him, and then DeAndre Jordan was leaving, and they convinced him to come back.
There was but there was one season where the Clippers didn't have those guys or didn't have those guys healthy, and he was still able to coach up a team. So he does have that ability. But regardless, Doc with actual weapons. But anyways, there he is in Milwaukee, and that's the interview that came out, and it was just kind of like funny. And they're 3-7 since he's taken over, by the way. So
yeah, well, can we? Is this the time?
What?
I always have a segment about Doc Rivers every season. Yeah, and it shouldn't be like the running joke.
Echoes right here, right? We're on another loop in the spiral.
All right, so there on September 28th, 2020, Rivers stepped down the Clippers' defeat of losing Denver Nuggets in the conference semifinals. I'm not seeing anything about who was on that team, but I'm gonna go 2020 Clippers. So we've talked about Doc in ASEAN. No, he did. He had Kawhi and Paul George, I believe.
Was that one? But he had one season where he didn't have those guys, or they weren't healthy because Kawhi's been
2020 Doc Rivers and the Los Angeles
1920. Okay. So yeah, Pat Bev.
I think you're right. I think you're on the. No, he had Kawhi. So Bev, Coffee, Paul George, Montrezl Harrell, Reggie Jackson, Kawhi Leonard, buddy. I'm not going to agree with you on
2018-2019 season, the year before that.
So you're thinking 2019?
2018-2019. Pat Bev, Avery Bradley, Wilson Chandler. I'm looking at the right one. Yeah. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Tobias Harris. But he didn't have Kawhi. He didn't have Paul George. He didn't have Chris Paul. He didn't have Blake Griffin. That's the team I'm talking about.
So you're going to give me on one season?
Yeah.
We go 43. Sure.
One season where they won 48 games and still made the playoffs with a down year. That was a down year for the Clippers. It was supposed to be. And look, I'm just saying he could coach up teams without the talent. But when he gets the talent, he tends to squander it.
But may I now I get to do the thing.
There we go.
I've never seen.
Just want to justify it.
That's fine. One season.
I'm giving him the one and his Magic season. There you go. But with the talent, that's we've had this conversation. I have never
seen. Yeah, I'm gonna revisit it, right? Because as long as he's still coaching, because look what
another loop in the spiral. We're back.
Yeah, we're going to
Redux.
I have never seen a coach in any professional sports I follow that has just inherited like generational Hall of Fame players, and he's only been able to come out with just two finals appearances with one set team, and arguably that's not even his best team that he's inherited, right? And then everything else is just first or second round eliminations. You had the trio, technically quadruple team, the four players with Rajon in Boston with Garnett, Allen, Pierce, and Rajon. And if you want to count Big Baby, right, you can get your 5. Then you get him in LA with Chris Paul, who we give a lot of crap about, but we love Chris Paul into this game. It was just I didn't want him to win with the Suns. I'll be the first person to tell you that because it just felt too late now. Then you had Blake Griffin at that time, which was great, and then DeAndre Jordan was good, and then Lou Williams came and play. And then even just seeing it, because I forgot that he got both Kawhi and Paul George at a point. It's been so long. This is 5 years ago at this juncture, right? And then he gets the 76ers, which had Joel Embiid, James Harden, Ben Simmons to a small degree, right? And they shipped him out. But then you have Tyrese Maxey came in, and then he's gone, and he's on ESPN ABC with Doris Burke and Mike Breen. And then he gets brought on to the Bucks with Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez. I have never seen it work in this conjuncture, and he's basically like King Midas, except to touch himself its gold, it turns to bronze at most. I have no words, and now he's like 3-8 because obviously when you hire somebody in season that wasn't on the staff and doesn't know the players and doesn't have a philosophy, and you can't just go and say, "Hey, running through Giannis," because obviously Drew Holiday, whom they traded to get Dame for, was a much better defensive weapon and player than I love Dame, but Dame ain't that guy. You and I can both say that. And Middleton's at the end of his career at 33 because he hasn't been healthy. And they'll still get to the playoffs. Hell, they might win it all. You know, the East is weird. I don't believe in Boston. They haven't played a physical team. I'm calling it right now. Go Heat. But, man, how do you make those statements? And then the Twitter thing of like, I don't even know why they called me. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know why you're here. But, hey, because I literally think he went and said, well, if I say no, that means they're probably going to hire Stan Van Gundy. And by all means, I can't have that happen and bring that to the modern day NBA. So I'm doing this. That's really what I felt like he did.
Or imagine Stan Van goes in and he actually wins, and then that completely ruins.
Giannis Antetokounmpo would blow Stan Van Gundy's mind because, you know, a center for him, it was like, all right, just be defense and rebound, and then you'll like score in a post. And you get somebody who could shoot, you know, past 5 feet, and then also sometimes get a 3. And then him with Dame, because he never had a hot shot shooter like Dame before.
True.
In his coach's side. He wouldn't know what to do. But that's the thing is they wanted a veteran coach, and there's only 2 names. There's only 2 names out there, bud. There was only 2 names out there. And, you know, Sam Van Gundy's, but yeah, you know, the Pelicans have worked, but, you know, Zion wasn't my kind of guy.
Is he out there?
He moved up into the Pistons organization.
Oh, he's on the front office, right? He's not the coach.
Yeah,
anymore.
he went to the front office. But, you know, I think it's debatable on Dwayne Casey, you know, and who do you have? And Jacques Vaughn just got fired in Brooklyn, and I felt like he didn't get a fair shake. And, like, what's your other option? Steve Nash, right? You know, kind of thing, who wasn't really a veteran coach. He had, like, those 2 years, and they realized it was a bad call. You know, I'm sorry, Mike Malone's out there. George Karl. Yeah, I'm going there because I'm thinking of Denver Nuggets. Yeah. You want George Karl up in that, who basically has beef with so many.
George Karl is too old by this point. He's like in his 80s or something. I forgot how old.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw Dusty Baker win a World Series at like 105.
Yeah, but I don't think George Karl's got the fire for that. Also, I think he's burned a lot of bridges, so he's not coming back.
George Karl is 72.
He wrote a book, right, and then just like burnt a ton of bridges. So.
Yeah. Side note: I beat the Devils of the Capitals 6-2.
Alrighty. Let's see. So I mean, that's all I have.
That's all I have for basketball.
1 hour and 38 minutes. It's 9:24 where we're at. So we did tweet stuff over or send into the group chat some wrestling stuff and some memes. So much. Let's go for it then.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to your weekly TruePlex to Cage with Charles. For disclaimer, wrestling is not fake. It's a scripted fight. It's a stage fight. It's a song and dance. It's men and women beating the holy hell out of each other, you know, chasing championships, establishing legacies, a soap opera, and also, because Sheamus had mentioned it, and I don't think I put it in Twitter, Sheamus, we love you, about getting 5-star banger matches. Someone was talking that ish. He clapped back and said, you know, if you want things with storyline and stuff like that, go watch a soap opera. So now I can kind of like congeal both those things in there. But I'm going to keep it short because like AEW is still on the long building of things for Revolution in March. TNA, we already kind of talked about some stuff. New Japan's New Japan. So it really is going to be a WWE-centric episode, but it's going to be short, guys, because they have Elimination Chamber at 5 a.m. Eastern time.
Sunday, right?
I am not watching it.
What's this?
Because they're in Perth, Australia.
Oh, Australia.
It is. Yeah, it's gonna start this Saturday at 4:30 a.m. I'm gonna be asleep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be out cold. I do not love anything in life enough to be up at 4:30. It could be a Black Friday deal where I get everything for $1. I'm gonna be up there. It could be that, hey, you up text message. I ain't going. It's not gonna be waking up to watch wrestling. that I think the card is moderately okay to do so. It's not going to be none of that. AEW, we'll talk about it. They're building up the storylines that we talked about. Triple Threat and Revolution. They're going to get some free agent signings of Okada and Mercedes Moné, allegedly. Nothing like everything is always there. Right now, what you just need to know is that Tony Khan is on that Manifest Destiny where he's having his guys wrestle against CMLL, which is the other counterpoint promotion in Mexico, because there's AAA wrestling and there's CMML, and don't even get me on how to pronounce it in Spanish myself, because I don't watch a lot of the Lucha Libre. It's Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre. And there's a lot of beef because it's a side-off, because I think it was originally the oldest professional wrestling promotion, and then AAA factored out because there was some beef. There's some good wrestlers. That's all I need to know. What I will say is that I am invested in anything that Bryan Danielson will do with the Blackpool Combat Club. So wherever he goes, I follow. I have to catch up on him and Zack Sabre Jr. in that New Japan match that they had a couple weeks ago. But I'll let it lie low for now. All I know is it's good. They're going to build up the feuds that they have. The Young Bucks, Sting, Darby is going to be a good feud. I don't know what we're doing, Christian. I'll be honest with you. I don't really need Christian versus Edge Part 2 going on. And I know Daniel Garcia and Edge were having a number one contendership match last week, and then Christian interfered. So we might get Daniel Garcia coming in and getting his claim to fame, a triple threat match between him, Christian, and Edge. Too early to be seen. I really don't know what's going on in the women's title show. I know we're going to have Deonna Purrazzo versus Toni Storm in the Revolution match, but it makes me wonder if Jamie Hayter's going to come back, who had originally lost the belt to Toni Storm because she was injured. I lost some of you below too. Am I interested? Yeah, I watched on Wednesday. I told you guys I was going to. I do right by you people. They get in there. Wrestling's always good. The problem is wrestling, whether it's WWE, New Japan, AEW, TNA, and I'm pretty well-rounded now, is if I can get the bite sides of everything, whether it be on Twitter or on YouTube, I'll take it, because it's just too much wrestling going on right now.
You get the abridged version.
Pretty much. I watch what I curate and watch what I want to watch, essentially, on all promotions, and it's building fine. NXT is happening right now. It was a pre-tape show last week because they're in Australia this week, so they're not going to do it live. Shotzi Blackheart was going against Lyra Valkyria for the NXT Women's Championship, and then Shotzi tore her ACL. So that was announced ahead of time. Unfortunate. Wrestling is fake in your guys' minds sometimes, we're not viewerships, but I really don't see injuries like that happening to someone who's acting out Shakespeare. Just say it's a physical entertainment sport on one spectrum. It's a physical sport on another spectrum. People break their necks, tear their ACLs, pop their shoulder, break their hands, have their nose busted. It is physical, and that's what you need to know about it. And damn it, does it hurt. Let's make it short. Let's make it sweet. We're going to do our predictions, because I think next week's going to start what I talked to you about last week, where I'm just going to do WrestleMania matches to highlight for everybody to watch. I also was going to play a fun one if we had more time, which was what wrestling move would you take or not. I've been following Maven Huffman, who is a former WWE wrestler known as Maven. And he has this whole thing of like, he ranked out like what moves, I think I sent it to you, of what moves hurt or don't hurt. And I kind of be like, if I was a wrestler, would I take this kind of thing as a bump? Like, even as a wrestler, if I was paid money, would I take like an RKO or a power bomb or a pile driver? Right. So I might create that little fun. If Andrew comes back on, I'll do a 3-man group and I'll just send you guys ahead of time. But let's talk about the pay-per-view. Am I excited for it? Sure. When will I watch it? Sunday. I will avoid Twitter for one day. It's possible, even though this is an easily predictable card.
This is Sunday morning, right? Sunday 4:30.
No, this is Saturday morning.
Saturday 4:30. Okay, and then then you'll. All right.
Because you remember, I wake up, I do my morning constitution, I go work out for like 2 hours, right? If it's not raining, I'll go jogging, and then I'll take a nap, and I'll decide if I'm going to be a socialite or not, right? But I will watch it at some juncture, because even though it's a predictable card, predictable isn't bad. You know what I mean? It still could be something that you want to watch, because if the matches are good, unless it's like a big kind of swerve. So we'll start with some of the basics ones, and then we'll go into what I want to see. Undisputed Tag Team Championships, Judgment Day, Damian Priest and Finn Balor versus British Strong Style, as I call them, the Bruiser Boys, of Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate. I need them to split the tag titles. I need them to have a tag title specifically for Raw and a tag title specifically for SmackDown. And that's it. Call it the WWE Tag Championships, call it the World Championships, and the other one, I don't care. You did it with the women's titles. You did it with the main titles. Let's get over it. Let's get it done. There's a lot of potential and a lot of good stacked wrestlers on that roster and tag teams. I'm over it, buddy. I am so over it. Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax for the Women's World Championship. Rhea Ripley is from Australia. She's representing Australia in this match against Nia Jax. Nia Jax has been built as a juggernaut. Oh, sideways. Judgment Day is winning that title. I know that match. They'll retain the titles. I got to do my predictions, right? But Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax. I'm going to make two arguments here. One, I think this should be the main event, even though I have not liked Rhea Ripley's reign that much. If she has been carrying Raw, she's been carrying Judgment Day, she's in a feud against Nia. If it's her hometown, Australia, you're trying to get international appeal, as for a title that you're trying to tell me is an important championship by the time WrestleMania comes around, what better way to say, hey, this is more than just Roman Reigns' show than giving her and Nia the main event, the pure main event. I think it makes sense. That's just me. Whether or not Hunter does that is up to him, but I think you should. The feud has been decent. It hasn't been terrible. Really, it's going to be Rhea versus Becky at WrestleMania. So be it. But I really think it sends a message of saying not only are you putting your star players around this title, the title actually means something. Giving somebody a championship or a belt or a title, whatever you call it, doesn't mean anything. It's what you do with that storyline. So imagine talking about like the stakes of WrestleMania with this title that main evented the prior pay-per-view over every other title, because no other title is really being defended. The US title's not being defended. IC belt's not being defended for reasons. Tag team title's not being defended. Roman's not defending his Universal Championship because obviously they got bubble wrapping for Cody, and Seth's injured, so he's not defending the title. So give this the main event. Don't give me the Elimination Chamber match. Give me this. That's my thoughts on that. Rhea wins and retains. So let's talk about the Elimination Chamber matches, because I think there's one more match to be announced, but I'm just going on the most recent card that I have. I think I've talked to you about it. The Elimination Chamber is 6 people in there. I'm just doing my count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people in there. Assigned numbers come in. Last person, wins it. What is in both men's and women's championship, or not championship, but chamber matches, is whoever wins gets a title shot at their respective championships in WrestleMania. So Seth's is up for grabs, the World Heavyweight Championship, and then Rhea Ripley, who is defending that title that night, is a Women's World Heavyweight Championship is up for grabs. So I think, I don't like a gimmick match being for number one contendership, to be honest with Francisco. I think I liked this kind of match where it's 6 people in randomized caging to come out for a main title, actually be defended that night, but it's not my show. I don't run it. So with the women's match, I don't want to poo-poo on it, but sometimes this is when predictable is bad. So it's Becky, Bianca, Liv, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, and Raquel Rodriguez. I think we all know Becky Lynch is winning. Becky versus Rhea has been kind of set out very much so for several months. Like right around the Rumble, Becky was telling Rhea, I'll see you at WrestleMania. And it's like, I think it kills some of the suspense and the excitement. I don't even think there's a dark horse winner that comes out of this because it's directly to Rhea. And yes, I would like to see Becky versus Rhea, sure. But I think it just made more sense to have the women's SmackDown title defended and have Io Sky in there and then her retain and look like a strong champion going against her WrestleMania match against Bayley, who won the Royal Rumble. That's just me. Does that make sense to you? Like, if you have Io, who is a champion, win against 5 other competitors, and then she's carrying that momentum, creating the idea that she's unstoppable force against her Royal Rumble challenger, who was her friend, who is now turned babyface, who now has to come back, well, if she's 5 other women, how are you going to win, Bayley? That's just me, because the problem is, unless it's like visa issues, which I don't think it is, I don't know everything. That's why Gunther's not returning or defending the titles, because he has to stay in the U.S. for a couple of months. He can't go over to Australia on his visa. Is like, you're just elongating a feud for titles that haven't been defended. You know what I mean? Seth is legitimately injured, and you're not going to have Roman defend it because, God forbid, he gets hurt. That ruins the whole trajectory of what they're going to do with Cody in the story, right? But I felt like Io should be in that cage, in that chamber, going against 5 other people. You built a better story, whatever. But Becky wins. But then we get to the men. Here comes hypocrisy at its finest. Drew, Randy, Bobby, LA Knight, Kevin Owens, and Logan Paul, who's the U.S. champion. I don't get why Paul is like not defending his title at Elimination Chamber and why he's even in a contention match for another title, contender match for another title. But I don't write the game. But whereas Becky felt like you know who's going to win and it's not going to do anything for you, Drew's winning this. Because Drew has been a fantastic heel because he's been a hater. He's been petting it up. I've been sending you guys in the chat. And, I didn't like Drew when he was a face. And I said to you guys, I need Drew as a heel because it's going to be generational. And it has been generational. There's good talent. Not that the women's didn't have the talent either. They're both equal in talent for both the men's and women. But Drew winning is going to further a story. You see what I'm saying? Because he's been a hater. He's been saying that he's been doing things a nice way. He hasn't amounted to anything. So now he's got to be a bad guy. And this gets his shot against Seth, who, he's lost twice to, I believe. One because of clean and one because there was interference because Damian was trying to cash in at Money in the Bank. Drew just getting that snap. He feels like it's closer. It's going to be a triple threat match at Mania between him, Sammy, and Seth. And I am just like, I got a chub just thinking about it, right? Like, if you're doing this kind of number one contendership match to further a story, not to finish a story, looking at you, Cody, but to further the story, I think that's how it works well. But maybe watch what happens is the men's will suck, the women's will be entertaining. That's wrestling sometimes. The matches that you think you're most excited for turn out to be lame, and the matches that you didn't give much of a thought process to turn out to be the best. But I'll tell you, I don't think I've watched the last couple of Survivor Series, or not Survivor Series. I watched those. Before Hunter took over, I didn't watch a lot of those. But I haven't watched a lot of the Elimination Chamber matches because they had this kind of stuff in there where it was for contenderships as opposed to championships. And I haven't watched a lot of the Saudi Arabia pay-per-views, which I think last year was Elimination Chamber because they had just kind of like matches like meant to. But I will watch it because I think all the talent there is, bottom up, top down, fantastic. It's just not going to be at 4:30. But Drew wins that. Becky wins hers. Rhea retains. Judgment Day retains. And then Cody is going to be on with Seth on the Grayson Waller effect, or maybe the Rock or Roman show up. But I think it'll be like a solid B- pay-per-view. I'm not waking up for 4:30 in the morning because there's nothing. I can hear fire be shouting in my house. I'm not waking up. Just let it take me to flames. And that's all I'm going to give you on the cage this week.
Okay. All right. So I think that is it for us. I guess I'll watch the Panthers just won in overtime. Go. So I think that's it. They just won an overtime against the Ottawa Senators. So I guess I'll look at that. And bye, everybody.
Take care.